Wazoo's back. And as I said before, the scenario is it took me a long time to figure it out. It's not all about me. So, as I said, I have some very special guests that from the days of growing up in the city of Chicago on the north side, I feel that you're very much going to enjoy. Now, I believe the first time I ever met this Wazoo was, I think I was walking to the bar one time and I heard some guy singing. And I could have sworn, forget about it. And oh my God, is the Dago alive? Did he come back to life? Is he sitting there singing to these people here in the city of Chicago on Bell Street? No, it was this man. And the deal is, he's a very interesting man, got a lot of great qualities about him, but I guess the one thing he's so much well known for is, I don't even know what the hell the name of your band is. What is the name of your band?
No, well, it used to be the Gemtones when George Polis was alive. Actually, George taught me my craft. He was a park director just like I was.
At Wells Park.
We'll get into that later at Wells. No, just Artie Fitzgerald with Tommy McPherson. Artie sings Frank. That's how we bill ourselves.
You know what's amazing about this whole situation? The guy doesn't even have a name for his effing band.
We're not a band. I work with a guy. It's because of electronics today, everything is perfect. People don't want to pay $2,800 for a three-piece anymore.
Right.
And I had really quality staff musicians, but for what we do and come in and do a wedding and that, it's perfect. It fits in. And then when I'm done after dinner, which I'm there for mom and dad and grandma, grandpa, and auntie and uncle, and I guess they give the envelopes, have their meal, and then they split. And then
you get an envelope too.
The young people come in, I get an envelope too, of course. That's how I started working. I had the Park District job, but you know, I had a good job, but didn't pay a hell of a lot. So you had to go out and get another job. You know, you had to do work on it.
You hustled.
And then you know, it's something I liked. Sinatra was a part of my family. My sister was a singer. My dad liked Frank. It was Frank, and it was that era. 40 years later, I'm still doing Frank, and I like doing Frank, and people don't forget about Frank because he's on social media, and he's got a special station, and they just don't. I was thinking someday I'd be doing a younger wedding, and people come up and say, we really like what you did, but who's Frank Sinatra?
Well, my God, you know, it's funny though. It's eventually, you know, when people figure it out when they look at the old days, so like that, how great, so like that. But it's funny how you keep mentioning Frank. What's amazing about it, it's like you're Irish and German. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I mean, myself, when I was growing up and I went to high school, I went to Weber High School. It was a bunch of Italians and a lot of Polish. And the deal was obviously the Italian part, obviously, Jesus Christ, Owl Park, Frank Park. It was all hugely, I mean, Frank Sinatra was like, my goodness, like the second Pope almost, right? My goodness. And what made you get into, I mean, what was the deal that made you like, you know, dude, forget about it. I love Frank Sinatra. I want to sound like Frank Sinatra. I want to be Frank Sinatra. When did it start?
That's a really good question, Ed, because he was a staple in the house, you know, the records. My sister, God rest her soul, she just passed away a couple months ago. My sister, whether it be CD or 33 and a third album, probably has every album that Frank Sinatra ever made. So when I decided this, first of all, I was a percussionist, self-taught percussionist, and I always liked rhythm, and I used to sing background vocals for George Polis, as I said before, who sang predominantly a lot of Frank Sinatra stuff. I never molded myself to sound like Frank. I just started covering stuff for George, especially when George became ill and started getting sick and couldn't perform the entire evening, and I would fill in and do some more singing myself. I just sang Frank, and I guess maybe because I heard so much Sinatra growing up as a kid and everything, I just decided to sing his music, and according to people, I sound like him. So I stuck with what success would give me, you know.
You know, what's amazing was I grew up, obviously the same neighborhood as you had. Well, you were St. Bezos, Queen of Angels. And actually, we didn't meet until later on. But the scenario is, I know George Polis very well because I was part of Wells Park. And the deal was, he was the park director, if I'm not mistaken, right, at Wells Park. And I had no idea that he was a singer in a band.
Oh,
this is unbelievable.
Very, very popular. Gemtones were very, very popular. They were, on the north side, they were just the biggest hit. Very, very tough band to book for a wedding because they were booked so far in advance. Actually, I just started sitting in with them. No, I pick and choose my spots. I got 40 years in the industry, but not as popular. I gotta say, not as popular as the Gemtones.
I'm gonna tell you right now.
But bands were much more affordable. You know, you come in with live music today, and you work for a lot of fat cats with a lot of money.
Right.
But you work for a lot of people that are they got a budget for their wedding and that. So pretty much what I do now, you know, because of electronics, all my tracks are on the computer. It's all Frank's. It's Count Basie.
Are you lip syncer?
Nelson Riddle. Huh?
Are you lip syncer? Like Milli Vanilli?
No lip sync. I bring cheat sheets with once because somebody will throw me a zinger and ask a request, and if I haven't done it in a long time, I gotta peek and look and get the lyrics. But no lip syncing.
No, but hey, in fact, I'm trying. Of course, I don't remember the date. You know what's so funny about it? I mean, I can remember my phone number. I can remember what happened in 1975. I can remember what happened in 1980, but I can't remember what the fucking happened yesterday. Or what the fuck I had dinner for. I'm like, what the fuck is going on in my life, right? But I remember the last time I saw you playing, in fact, was, by the way, that's how I came across this Wazoo from Minnesota to help me with this fucking podcast. And you were singing, in fact, with Rose Leans, who was my first guest, by the way, her daughter's wedding, right?
Yes.
And I'll tell you right now, you had those blue hairs all lined up. Forget about it. Like they're up for a cockfight.
It was a lot of fun, and I know Rose prior to working that job because I did a fundraiser for her years ago, and it was through Carol Elkin that we got booked for the job at Queen of Angels Hall.
Right.
And I can't remember what the fundraiser was for. I wish Rose was there. I could ask her, but it really doesn't matter. It was a packed house, and I walked around, worked the room, and it definitely was a fundraiser for something. And hadn't seen Rose in years. And then a good friend of yours, who happens to date Rose now, I was singing next door for a anniversary party, and you guys were dining at Mabel's Tables.
Oh,
I guess
wow.
we're giving Mabel's a plug.
Yeah, oh my goodness.
And they told me that you were over there, and we hadn't started yet. And I went over to say hello, and Rose was there, of course, and Eddie. And Eddie had said, you know, you'd be ideal if you would sing the cocktail hour for Rose's daughter's wedding. And
it was phenomenal.
That's how it became a realistic thing. So
that's why we were talking about keeping shit in the neighborhood, right? It's perfect.
It was very nice, and it was surprising that there was a lot of Park District and Wells Park people there,
right.
And it was enjoyable for me because I haven't seen a lot of those people in a long time. Some of the younger kids that played at Wells, and they were George Polis's kids. And
wow.
By the way, George Polis was probably one of the greatest park directors that ever lived because Mr. Kelly was the czar of the Chicago Park District, and he was the back door where Mr. Kelly worked. So a lot of pressure on George to do a good job.
I have to tell you a great story about George Polis. All right, so this was at Wells Park, and I don't know why I've just gone blank. They always had the Wells Park Day Camp during the summertime, right? So it was not a rec leader, but you were helping with setting up the kids and stuff like that.
Yeah, you're a rec leader.
Right. So anyhow, I remember, forget about it, you're not getting paid much money at all, but
No.
but they would give the money to you at the end of the summer, right? And I remember we always go to the pool and let the kids go play the pool, but we could never go in the effing pool, right? And then all of a sudden, the last day, right, boy, Mr. Polish would let us all jump in Wells Park pool, right? So we're sitting there, and then we were playing like a dodgeball, in the pool. I kind of refer to like what do you call it? Ben Stiller. Why am I going blank? Hey, Wazoo. What was that show with Ben Stiller with Meet the Fuckers or whatever? What was
the
it?
Fuckers.
Yeah, but what was the first one? Or the first one?
Like,
Meet the Parents.
Meet the Parents. Yeah.
When he goes, and he goes up, he throws a ball, he smacks the bride right in the nose like that. So I did this to try to get somebody, and they ducked, and they had this big glass case right in the pool area.
Oh no!
Of like that, and I smashed it. And I go, oh fudge! I'm screwed, right? I go, there goes my whole work of the summer.
Oh,
right?
no.
My God. That man gave me my whole check. And I go, wow. And I was scared shitless. Like, and I couldn't say anything, right? Blah, blah, blah. But, I mean,
I'm
he was
sure
afraid.
I'm sure it wasn't malicious.
No, it was an accident. But it doesn't matter. Forget about it. I mean, Jesus Christ. When I was younger, if you spilled a gallon of milk, you paying for that milk this week, son. Right? And the deal is, and I go, wow, what a great guy. You knew it was by accident. And I go, oh, shit. But it was a perfect example when Wells Park, because that's where I grew up, played baseball and all this stuff, and it made me realize that that was a phenomenal neighborhood.
Well, it's funny because where I grew up was Hamlin Park, and I ended up being the director there for 29 years.
The park?
Yeah.
Wow.
3035 North Hoyne was the address of Hamlin Park, and I grew up at 3116 North Hoyne.
Wow.
I played Little League there. I played.
So if you were late for fucking work, whose fault was it?
That's my own. And my first
Right?
my first apartment when I got married was at Fletcher and Damon, which was 3121 North Damon Avenue. I can't believe I can remember these addresses.
Right? Well, my God, Jesus Christ, probably get better memory. But right? I go, what did I eat for dinner last night?
Forget about it.
But my God, forget about it. Right?
Chicken.
My God, I can tell you what happened in 1975, but now I can't remember a damn thing. So you were the park director at Hamlin Park, huh?
29 years.
Wow. So why did the Deuces flourish back then? My God.
My first 10 years were not easy.
And when I mentioned the Deuces, and obviously, as I said, there would be things talking about gangs in the city of Chicago, because obviously when I was growing up, I came across a lot of them. Wasn't in one, but I knew a lot of guys in all different type of gangs. And a big gang in our neighborhood back then was the Hamlin Park Deuces, right? And the deal was, that's why it's funny when you mention it's like that. But it's the same thing. If you're not representing colors, right? You're walking now. You can walk down the damn street, right? Most of the time, without anybody fucking with you.
No, they weren't.
Right?
It wasn't.
It
wasn't like that at all.
But it was gang shit.
It was gang stuff. And it was against gang stuff, and
right.
Just the fact that it matter was the focal point for gang to gang sometimes could be Hamlin Park. Made the job very difficult.
Right.
Individually,
in what ways, if I can ask?
Well, because it was an open space, they'd be on one side, they'd be on another. But in the meantime, I had a lot of innocent young children and adults coming because there was no social media. The park district was a big part of your social life after work and in the evening and after
time.
school and
boys clubs,
so
stuff like that.
There was a lot of concern there. There were shots fired, and you didn't want any innocent people. You didn't want anybody to get hurt. But there was a way to approach some of these guys, and they still like sports a little bit, but you had to keep them divided. And
right.
Basically, what happened was when money came in the area got gentrified a little bit, and some people started moving away. But one thing I want to say, we were near Lathrop Homes, which they used to call the projects.
Right.
There are a lot of wonderful people in Lathrop Homes.
Right.
When I was a kid, and I grew up on 3116 Hoyne, right down the street from the park, and we used to go back and forth and play in Lathrop Homes. We played softball and some little league games and different stuff, and back and forth, and done at Hamlin and everything.
So when was this? Out of curiosity, what years you talking about?
When
we were playing softball. You know what? I'll tell you right now.
50s.
You see, forget about
early
it. My God,
60s.
you see, I mean, obviously, I'm sure people are shocked. This guy is far older than I am. I'm 60 years old, and he's 76. So the deal is, it's right. It's a different type of generation. Basically.
Well, at one time, Lathrop wasn't just for poor people. You paid don't quote me on this, but you paid a certain percentage of your salary to live there in this federal housing. At one time, Lathrop Homes was a engineering feat. It was self-sustaining. Its own water filtration, heating, and all. There was a whole bunch of things about Lathrop that people never knew about, and it was absolutely impeccable.
Wow.
And then, you know, poverty came a little bit, and it brought things down. And but there was a lot of great people and athletes that grew up in Lathrop Homes.
You know, I'll tell you right now, dude. That's one thing I've always tried to, like, talk to my friends stuff like that about growing up in the neighborhood by us and stuff like that. And trust me, I came across bad neighborhoods, stuff like that, and you can't like that. But the deal was, there were a lot of very good people, but they've had bad curves thrown at their asses. Forget about it. And I don't know about you, but I would say the majority of the time people will not be able to survive that. All right? And it's funny, the reason that's why I love you, Artie, because the deal is you're a passionate human being, and the scenario is the deal is, obviously I'm doing this BS in the first place, is that somehow, some way, I want to help Chicago homeless. And the deal is, I always thought with Chicago was what's great about it is it's very neighborhoody, and the situation is, it's something special to me all my life, because I've gone through, even the north side, I've gone to the south side, same thing, very neighborhoody, very close-knit, and stuff like that. And I wanted to, I mean, like I said, whatever the case may be, when it's all said and done, I pray to God that you'll be able to drive down Lakeshore Drive and not see tents along the drive, right? And the deal's, I look at life, like you said, people are good people, right? They got curves thrown in and stuff like that, and things were tough. And the deal is, everybody's the same when they come out of their mother, father. Forget about it. And the deal is, and like, that's why I consider myself, just like yourself, Wazoo, right? We are lucky human beings. We have a great life. Everything's looking great like that, but not everybody does. And the deal is, I look at the homeless themselves on the lakefront, mentally ill, druggies, whatever the case may be. Like I've always said, been there, done that. But the deal is, so such yourself, I'm gonna ask for your help. Talking to people like that, this is something we could definitely do, because the deal is, my goodness, dude, the fact that seriously, the Hamlin Park, I mean, when we were growing up in the neighborhoods like that, Hamlin Park was it got really rough for a while.
It was.
It was like, my God. And now, granted, I always say, when I first bought my house over here in Hawaii, across the Autobahn, I forget about it. Some of those days I miss, because if you weren't gangbanging them most of the time, they didn't fuck with you, all right? I mean, Jesus Christ, my mother would be able to get off the bus and walk to my house without getting mugged,
if you were affiliated, then you had a problem.
Right.
But if you weren't, I don't know, maybe it's more that way south. I don't live south. Right. I don't know. I don't have a feel for it.
We're good.
It's right 40 minutes.
And, you know, another thing I want to interject, especially being a park director at a place like Hamlin Park, is that, you know, a lot of those kids grew up with one parent. And that one parent is working and trying to make a living and put food on the table, and that extra person there. We tried to fill that void to have programs for the kids and keep them, and a lot of times it works. And there's another thing. Things get blown up a little bit. There's one incident, but the one incident makes it sound like 100 incidents. It's one incident. If you had 100 kids in a class,
right,
10% of them are pain in the ass.
Right.
If you have a wedding, 10% of the people don't show up.
Right.
It's the 10% rule.
Right.
And it's, you know, it wasn't a hard thing to get the kids involved, and even the gangbangers. The gangbangers still want to play softball again, but the other gangbangers pester them and bother them while they're playing, and you got to isolate them is what you got to do.
So what we got to do right now, Wazoo, you need to do a little clip for us, sing for us, to show you that Sinatra shit.
Acapella?
No,
I haven't done
I
acapella.
don't care,
Yeah.
my guy. You look good. Don't worry about it. My God, but we need a little taste of Forget About It.
I'll give you just a little.
We're not
Fly me to the moon. Let me play amongst the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, baby, kiss me. That's it.
Forget about it. Oh, beautiful, my God, beautiful.